Electricity powers convenience, productivity, and opportunity. At American Transmission Company, we play a vital role in helping to keep the lights on, businesses running, and communities strong. Since 2001, we've owned and operated the electric transmission system that moves electricity at high voltages over long distances in portions of Wisconsin, Upper Michigan, Minnesota, and Illinois. Our transmission lines carry electricity from the places where power is made to the lower voltage electric distribution systems that bring power to communities. ATC's high-voltage transmission system operates at voltages ranging from 69,000 volts to 345,000 volts. It's made up of substations, lattice towers, large steel poles, two-pole wooden structures, single wooden poles, and some buried transmission lines. Whether you operate heavy equipment or use ladders and handheld tools, it's up to you to work safely to protect yourself, your crew, and the public. At ATC, we want your projects to be successful, on time, and above all, safe. This program will provide you with the information you need to prevent costly damage and keep you safe while working around transmission facilities. The ATC transmission system, where practicing safety makes perfect sense. ATC's underground high-voltage transmission lines are located throughout Wisconsin and Upper Michigan and can pose a significant danger to crews working around them if the proper safety measures aren't taken. Contractors are responsible for taking all necessary precautions to avoid damaging ATC underground transmission lines. The following will provide some guidance on working safely around ATC's transmission lines. All construction or excavation work done near ATC underground transmission lines must be supervised by an ATC representative. 3 days before engaging in any underground construction near ATC's underground transmission lines, contact ATC. Some high-voltage transmission cables are contained within a high-pressure, fluid-filled steel pipe. The coatings on these pipes may be gray, yellow, or black, and may resemble a gas or water pipe. These underground transmission lines are surrounded by either thermal sand or a slurry backfill to allow heat to dissipate, and must be replaced once construction is completed and the transmission line reburied. Other transmission cables are encased within concrete, often called duct packages. Before you can safely work near an underground transmission line, you must first locate the line and verify its depth. Flags and locator marks indicate the direction the cable is running, but not how deep it is buried. The only way to be sure of the cable depth is to carefully expose it. Prior to crossing or paralleling any ATC transmission line with directional drilling construction methods, the line must be exposed by hand digging or vacuum excavation. When hand digging, it's important to use proper tools and techniques to safely verify the depth of an underground transmission line. Never use a pickaxe or a pointed spade, or stab at the soil or jump on the shovel with both feet. Instead, use a blunt nose shovel to loosen the soil and a regular shovel to remove it. Dig to the depth where you expect the line to be, but off to one side. Then, using a prying motion, break away soil from the side of the underground transmission line. The buried line must be inspected by an ATC representative for defects in the coating while it's exposed, and before the specialized thermal fill is replaced prior to reburying the line. The thermal backfill must also be replaced around any underground transmission line that has been exposed before it is reburied. If you contact and damage an underground transmission line, report it immediately. Repairs can be made more easily while the line is still exposed. Never try to fix a damaged line yourself. Attempting to cover up any accident can be dangerous and can lead to costly damages for you and your company. Underground lines can also be damaged in other ways without being exposed or contacted. Construction methods such as blasting, pile driving, and using equipment that causes vibrations, such as equipment used to break up concrete pavement, can damage underground transmission lines, vaults, and duct packages. Placing heavy equipment on bare ground over underground transmission lines can cause soil compaction and sinking that can also damage the line. When driving heavy equipment over an underground line, use matting or road plating. If the grade over the underground transmission line is changed, the ability to dissipate heat could be compromised. Additional fill can cause excessive heat buildup and affect the capacity of the circuit. This also can create a hot spot, which can cause damage over time. If the grade is cut, the circuit will be vulnerable to future damage. Any plans that include grade changes over ATC underground transmission lines must be reviewed and approved prior to construction. Overhead transmission lines are different than the smaller distribution lines that are owned and operated by local electricity companies. Although all electric lines can pose significant hazards to anyone working around them, transmission lines carry higher voltages, which require more care to ensure that the work is accomplished safely. Overhead transmission lines can be distinguished from distribution lines by the long insulator strings that suspend the wires. The longer the string of insulators, the higher the voltage of the transmission line. Lower voltage distribution lines have smaller insulators and are usually on single-pole structures. Overhead transmission wires are not insulated. If contact is made with an overhead transmission line by your body, your equipment, or your tools, serious injury or death could result. Contacting an overhead transmission line is not the only concern, however. You don't have to come into direct contact with a high-voltage power line to be harmed. If you're working too close to the transmission line, the voltage on the energized line can flash or jump over the air gap to you or your equipment. There are OSHA standards for safe work clearances near high-voltage transmission lines. These clearances range between 10 feet for 69,000-volt lines to 16 feet for 345,000-volt lines. New OSHA rules require additional clearance for power-operated equipment used to hoist, lower, and horizontally move a suspended load. It's vital that you know how much clearance is between you, your equipment and tools, and the transmission line at all times. Transmission lines have long spans and operate at high temperatures. During periods of high electric demand, the wires may sag a considerable amount. As a result, clearances may change from day to day as the line expands or contracts. For instance, on a cold day, a lightly loaded line may hang 35 feet above the ground. However, on a hot day, or if the line becomes heavily loaded, that same line may sag and have only 25 feet of clearance from the ground. You must always be aware of the amount of clearance between your equipment and an overhead line, and ensure that you comply with OSHA standards and account for possible line sagging as the temperature changes from day to day or during the workday. Just as working too close to transmission lines can create dangerous and costly mistakes, you must also be careful not to compromise the stability of the structures that suspend the lines. Some transmission structures have massive concrete foundations. Others are buried directly in the ground or have steel anchor foundations. All of these structures rely on the weight of the earth for stability. Removing soil from around the base of a transmission structure can cause the structure to become unstable and fall over. Placing additional fill around the base of a structure can also create problems. The buried portion of a transmission structure is treated with a special protective coating that guards against corrosion. The portion of transmission poles that are below ground are specially treated to prevent decay. When a portion of a structure that is meant to be above ground is covered with fill, the moisture in the soil can cause corrosion and weaken steel poles or cause wood poles to rot. In addition, use caution when driving near transmission structures. Damage caused by contacting the structure with equipment or vehicles can reduce the strength of the structure. Electric distribution and communication utilities that attach their facilities to transmission poles must be mindful of pole loading and clearance requirements. If the transmission structure wasn't designed to hold additional facilities, adding them may overload the pole or cause a clearance violation. All attachment requests must be reviewed and approved prior to attaching to the transmission facilities. The ATC transmission system operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so our crews need to be able to access it at all times. It's very important for our rights-of-way to be clear of obstructions should there ever be a need to restore the system or perform regular maintenance. Sheds, Garages, swimming pools, septic systems, and other structures are not allowed to be constructed in the right-of-way. Wisconsin state law prohibits construction of homes beneath an electric transmission line. Trees and shrubs can also obstruct access to the transmission lines and structures. If a tree makes contact with the transmission wire, it can cause a transmission outage and may endanger those nearby. All of our transmission lines must maintain certain code clearances between the ground and the wires. Any change to the grade under the transmission lines must be reviewed prior to construction to make sure that we can maintain access to our facilities and that code requirements are met. We hope that you now understand a little more about our transmission facilities and the importance of working safely around them. Anytime your construction plans require you to work near overhead or underground transmission lines or substations, give us a call at 866-899-3204. We'll review your plans to make sure that your project is compatible with the reliable operation of our transmission system and that the construction is completed safely. And if you're working near an underground cable, we'll arrange for someone to be on site while you do your work. We want your project to be successful, completed on time, and above all, safe. Remember, when working around the electric transmission system, practicing safety makes perfect sense.